Here. Yeah, boy.
What's up, everybody? This is Fat Jesus Live, Chris Maynard, and Rebirth of the Word.
Man, Chris, bro, I appreciate it, man. I've been following your work a lot. We had a conversation some months ago, in particular your book, and you taught me some things in there. And
What's the name of that book?
The History of the Coharie Tribe.
Yeah, let's show
What
that
is
one more time.
that? Oh my gosh! Can
That's
you
my
tell us a
latest
little
and
bit
greatest.
about it?
Yeah, this is my latest work. It's book number 5. I'm currently working on book number 6, but this is the newest book. Came out just in time for powwow season at the end of last year, and I can get into the co-author thing there. It's not really a co-author; it's just my alter ego. I write under a pen name, but for this book, since it's about my tribe, the tribe I'm enrolled with, I wanted to use my real last name because last names mean everything to folks when you get to the conversation of who's your people. That's what we say down in Indian country, who's your people. If you say Maynard, Lowry, Oxendine, Brewington, it means something. And so I wanted to make sure I gave, credit, so to speak, to my family name, Maynard.
Yeah, when I first seen that, it kind of threw me off because I was like, okay, it's two, because I thought it was two different authors working together. And when we actually talked, because I seen you actually promoted it on your X account. I don't even know how we even met. I know it was probably because I was posting up about something Native American. Usually.
I think it was your trip to Pilot Mountain, which is right up the street.
It was that, and we've been talking ever since then. And I'm actually going to make another trip up there to see you, actually, and that's in North Carolina. And I seen you unboxing your books, and I always love reading just regular people's books. And I'm not just saying just regular people books like in a bad way. I'm just saying people who are just interested in things and just said, I'm going to take the next step and write a book. That's how you know when they're serious about it, when they say, I'm going to take the next step and write a book about it.
Yeah, we talked a little bit, Tyrone, you and I, in the warm-up, getting everything set up for this. The impetus to write this book was the fact that I just did a Google search for my tribe. I was like, okay, let's see what my official book is out here. And there wasn't one. I'm like, what? This can't be right. So I went to BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, did a search for Coharie books. I was like, there's nothing. That's wild.
Goodreads.
I'm like, okay, why don't I write a book? I mean, I'm part of the tribe, and I've got contacts and family members who can help me out if I need to.
And we appreciate that. Everybody in the world appreciates that because we don't know anything about the Coharie Tribe.
Yeah, and I mean, state recognized tribe in North Carolina, not federally recognized.
They don't know any, like nobody else knows about this tribe except for North Carolina. That's crazy.
I mean, some probably do because we've expanded out. Like, for instance, I don't live in Harnett or Sampson County, North Carolina. I live in the Piedmont Triad in Davidson County. And I talk a little bit about it in my book. During especially World War II years, we became very mobile. The Coharie, the Lumbee, the Wakawasuan, all the East Coast, Eastern Woodland Indian tribes became very mobile. They came here to the Piedmont for the textile factories, the furniture factories. They went to Detroit to work in automotive factories. They went to Mobile, Alabama, because there was tons of jobs in Mobile, Alabama during World War II. And even some folks out in California, I have relatives out there for different reasons. Some joined the military, were stationed in the Navy out there, and decided when they came back to California, they stayed there. They didn't bother coming back this way. So it's.
I have a question. I have a question for you. Why do they call them the Coharie Indians? Did I say that correctly?
Coharie. The name actually comes from the Great Coharie Creek and the Little Coharie Creek that we live by, like for generations.
Why do they call them Indians? I mean, they're not from India, are they? I mean, I know Christopher Columbus called everybody Indians because he thought he just landed in India. Why are we continue to call people Indians? That is my biggest pet peeve.
The real The real answer to that is one of legal code. So in the US code, the word Indian has legal standing, which is why you see, for instance, another tribe that is shared history in North Carolina and South Carolina is the Catawba tribe.
Mm-hmm.
That tribe can be pointed at as one of our progenitor tribes because they are also Siouan tribe.
Well, what are we going to do with the actual Indians? Because that's the largest population in the world.
Yeah, that I think what was when Nikki Haley was running for president, what did she call herself? Indian American, I think. Kind of like a African American, Chinese American, Indian American was the term that she used to describe her background.
And she's indigenous.
What's that?
No, she indigenous, or she
that
was
would be
Indian
American
from India.
Indian. Yeah,
okay, American Indian. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we're talking, and I'm not making fun of gays or homosexuals or trans because it's almost the same. Almost the same. It's like, what are you? You know, I mean, are you this? Or are you that? Or I'm like,
and
I don't
know.
know
what? That's a good, and I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because this is why he wrote this book, and this is important. Is because
some people bristle at the fact that when, like my elders, they still say Indian. I don't. I've always said Native American. To me, that's more legit. To me, that's just my preference.
Okay. Everybody in the world right now listening, they are called Native American. Just get rid of that Indian
asterisk
terminology. Native American from now on and to the future. Native American. Say it with me. Native American. Native. Write every music you ever wrote. Native American. Native American. Native
or you
American.
Can say native. Some people just say native.
Oh, okay. You're breaking my
some people say indigenous. That's like a new.
Yeah, and
I was on a roll here. Yeah, that's right.
But seriously, listen, man, that's important because that's the reason why he wrote this book is because people ask, he says it in his book that people asked him, what is he? What you just did is exactly why he took this part to read his book, because I mean, in reality, I felt it a lot. I really did. I felt like, okay, when you did your research, it was almost like you was looking, and of course you already said it before that you was looking to see who you were. You wanted to see what your family tree was, what your bloodline was, what your history was, and you wanted to follow that. I mean, when you pick up my book and you open up my book, I literally give my DNA analysis that I got from 23andMe and wanted to share with people that, hey, I don't have a dog in this fight. I just wanted to share, what I've learned.
I have a dog.
Yeah, the dog part too when you said that.
Yeah, because it felt me. But I'm being serious. Like it was almost like we put up front who we are and what we know about ourselves, and this is what brought us here. Like like the first tab that I got on here. It says right here, and it was very important. It said, this book is dedicated to all of the native peoples once grouped under the common banner of the Croatan Indians. Tell me how to say that right, because Croatan. Okay, yeah. See, I told you it's hard for me if I don't hear somebody say it. I'll butcher it up.
Croatan is wasn't there a colony that disappeared?
Lost colony in North Carolina.
I heard about that. And they blamed it on the indigenous for killing them all, right?
Theories about that. And at one point here in North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, I should specify that, you had multiple tribes.
I'll be right back. Keep talking. I can hear you.
Multiple tribes that were basically put underneath the banner of Croatan Indians. Mm-hmm. Like they just called everyone Croatan Indians. So Hatteras Indians, Coharie, Waccamaw-Siouan, Lumbee, Chicora, some other smaller tribes. They were just known as Croatan Indians. And I think it came from that whole lost colony tradition that they didn't know what else to call them. So they just kind of used that word. And then that fell out of favor during the civil rights era because the word Croatan was shortened to Crow, and it was used as like a racial stereotype or a derogatory term, and so we stopped calling ourselves that. And like, for instance, my grandfather, he just called himself Indian. He didn't specify a tribe. He knew that he was Tuscarora, but he never said it. He's just like, we're Indian folks. That's what he would say.
You,
What you got?
you,
What's that tab
so
for?
that tab. Let's see. Can you,
The
there
preface.
you go. Yeah, this is exactly. See, this is why I'm glad that Fat Jesus actually said what he said, was because I want him to understand, and the audience to understand, is that you tried to clarify or and represent things in the most respectful manner that you could have possibly done.
Always, man.
And this first paragraph in this preface is actually an example of that, because you say in this book you will come across terminology such as Native, Native American, American Indian, Amarant, and Indigenous in the telling of a wide variety of histories and stories. That's exactly what Fat Jesus brought up, was why don't we just call them one thing? But it depends on who you speak to, because in the way that it for one, the legal code, the whole thing with Native American history, from what I understand and what I learned, is that even though it's legal now, it may not be legal tomorrow for your tribes.
And it wasn't legal decades ago. I mean,
exactly.
There was a time in North Carolina and most of the states in the Southeast where we were considered other, or free persons of color, or colored, or all kinds of words, mulatto. They wouldn't call us Indian. They refused to call us Indian. So that's why the U.S. code and law code, it still sticks to this day.
And you say you don't have a dog in this fight.
I mean, I got my personal preference, but I don't speak for all of Native Americans.
But Rebirth was saying he didn't have a dog in this fight. Minorities, they've been through so much, and through families have been through so much, and it all comes down to how people are treated in this world, in society, the cultural society. So much has changed. We're in 2026. Can you imagine? Now we could get on a podcast and we could talk about it openly. But back then, it was kind of like you had to keep your mouth shut. You couldn't really talk about it openly. Our parents, they just pretty much went home, went to the market, didn't really say anything openly about it.
And I think that's why my grandfather never talked about his tribe. He knew he was Tuscarora. He knew it to his bones he was Tuscarora, but he never said it. He never bothered to say it. Why? 1711 to 1715, we fought a war in North Carolina against North and South Carolina. It's called the Tuscarora War. And the vast majority of our people were killed off, enslaved, or migrated north to rejoin the Haudenosaunee Confederacy up in New York. Now, some of the Tuscarora stayed. I'm proof of that, right? My family is proof of that on both sides of my dad's family. But to your point, for the longest time, you wouldn't be, with a bullhorn on the street telling everybody you're Tuscarora. You would say that in whispers because you didn't want to get dispossessed. You didn't want to get run off your land. You didn't want to be.
He was in a religious community. That's the Bible Belt, right?
Yeah,
North Carolina.
Yeah, and I mean, my tribe today is built around 4 churches. I mean, I talk about that in the book too. I take it straight from the tribal website, Shiloh, New Bethel. We were the first Christians. Like, if you believe, like I believe, that Chief Manteo of the Lost Colony is one of our progenitors, he was the first Native American to be baptized into a Christian church, the first, and he was at the beginning of our tribe's history. If you want to go back to European contact.
How far back that goes?
That would be the late 16th century.
Okay.
Even the tribal center on 7531 North U.S. Highway 421, is that still there in Sampson?
Oh, yeah.
That looks like it's on a church too, because it has a church sign. It looks like a church sign.
That building used to be our school because the tribes in North Carolina and South Carolina and Virginia, they had to fight for the right for their kids to go to school. And they said, okay, well, you can go to the schools for African-American children. But those schools were so substandard that they said, no, we want the same schools your kids have, to the state legislators and the senators. And they kept fighting for that. And eventually what the Coharie did is they just built their own school. And then they invited kids from other tribes to say, hey, if you can get here, come to our school.
I remember you talking about that.
And that is the tribal headquarters today. If I'm remembering correctly, That's why that building looks like a church / school, because it used to be.
I looked it up. The last time we talked about it, I actually looked it up. And it's actually pretty interesting. I'm actually going to make my trip up there for two reasons. One, to see you, of course, and two, to go to that Cherokee museum that they have there, because there's supposed to be some Coharie
Cherokees.
artifacts.
The Cherokees were there in North Carolina.
You come out in the Kuala boundary out west.
I don't know. I keep seeing Cherokee Museum on Facebook, and I looked one up. I know they got one in North Carolina. I thought they had one in South Carolina, but I think
do. It's in the upstate of South Carolina.
Wait. For our viewers, where was the Cherokees located? Because I don't know where the Cherokees were located. What part of the United States, and how far were the Cherokees located in the United States? Because I know the Seminoles, and they're not really technically Seminoles. It's like a combination of Native Americans, and then they formed the Seminoles. That I know of.
Yeah.
But where did the Cherokees come from, first of all, and where did they migrate to, and then ended up at the end? Do you all know this?
And you're right. The Seminole tribe is what's called a composite tribe, much like the Lumbee tribe, which are our cousins. Like if you look at North Carolina on the East Coast, in a lot of ways, your tribe is more about geography than it is about surnames or last names. For instance, I got plenty of surnames in my family tree that fit any of 3 tribes. People with last name Freeman, they identify as Coharie, they identify as Lumbee. People with last name Brewington, they identify as Coharie or Lumbee, or Waccamaw-Siouan or Lumbee. It really depends on geography. Like if you're in one of the 2 counties around Lake Waccamaw, chances are you're going to identify as Waccamaw-Siouan. But if you're in Sampson or Harnett County, you're going to identify as Coharie. That's where the Coharie Creeks are. If you're in Robeson, Cumberland, Hoke, and Scotland, you're going to identify as Lumbee probably. Even though if you did your genealogy, you'd probably see, oh, I'm part Catawba, I'm part Sherrall, I'm part Tuscarora. And the same can be said for the Coharie. We're part Tuscarora. I have Catawba in my family tree. I have Cherokee in my family tree. But in this, get back to your question, the Cherokee were out west. And the Cherokee kind of get bristled up a little bit when you try to conflate them, compare them to the tribes in the East. And I can go into a whole different thing about that because we just went through a battle with the Lumbee Indians, which I'm part Lumbee and part Cherokee.
How did the Cherokee end up in the East?
Well, that's the thing. They did not. And they did not because of the Catawba Indians. The Catawba Nation and the Cherokee were like this constantly. They were always fighting each other.
They were fighting because they were a warmongering tribe. The Cherokees always fought, right?
Pretty much. I mean, growing up, I was always told, oh, the Cherokee were peaceful. That's why they were allowed to stay in North Carolina. They were just farmers. Well, that's partly true. They were farmers, but they were some badass fighting farmers. I mean, let's just be honest. They don't call it Cherokee Wars, the Anglo-Cherokee
They had
War.
muscles and, you know,
Man,
when they came up at you, they looked bigger and bigger. You know?
I mean, that's why they have numerous treaties on the books, which is to their benefit. These
were like some Aztec Cherokees. That's what they were. freaking Mexican Cherokees.
Well, it's funny. One of the origin stories of the Cherokee actually has them coming out of Mexico and South America.
Yeah,
they have.
I know that. I know that story because my family is Hispanic, and my family tree is from the Inca civilization. So we come from all the way out there. But I'm also from Spain. My lineage is also out of Spain. I am actually a direct, no, I shouldn't even say this out loud. I'm going to be so canceled if I say it out loud. I am direct descendant of Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, he said that before.
Yeah.
Hey, so, man, my first name is Christopher, and I was angry about it my whole life.
I'm glad you brought that up.
You can see the feature. My son looks a lot like Christopher Columbus. His nose, everything, his feature. I took a picture of him and put a picture right next to it. I'm like, dude, you look like him, and it's very canning. So many generations sometimes end up looking like your great grandfathers. But that's because his mother is European. So I didn't marry a European, but her ancestry is European. Her mother is actually a direct descendant of Admiral Byrd. So
we're related then. I'm related to Admiral Byrd.
Oh yeah,
I think you said that before.
That guy got around, bro.
Yeah.
You know, I want to go back to Christopher Columbus because this is very
Oh
important.
boy, here we go.
A lot of people always say, you know, Christopher Columbus founded America and blah 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 blah. First of all,
Central America.
Yeah. First of all, he can't find something that was already there and people living there. They just learned about it, right? The other thing is that everybody that was on those ships weren't people that were coming to learn the land. They were literally prisoners. They were people who were, you know.
Well, the first ones around were not.
No, the first ones were. Yeah, they were. The first ones were. Yeah,
the first ones were prisoners.
The first ones were prisoners. Not all of them, but most of them were. A lot of them were because of the fact. I mean, of course, they had some good people on there, but most of them were because they was trying to get rid of them out of the prison system. It was during the time when the prison system was getting full.
I figure. Well, I mean, I figure every ship that's ever flown for the Spanish or anything like that, the prisoners had a chance to get on a ship and work on the ship.
Yeah, they got it. That's how they got to get freedom. Was that they get?
So let's not make it so bad, okay? Let's not make it so bad.
We have to make it bad because we got to really think.
That'd be a nice way to get out of prison. I'll tell you that right now.
No, no. Let's think of the mentality.
I can work on a ship. Okay, I'm out of here. Instead of eating slop in the prison and in a place where I could get diseases and die and probably get beheaded because the prison is getting kind of full. I'll get on the ship.
You're using that with your understanding of the world today. Back then, they didn't even think the world was round like that. They didn't know. There was people literally still thinking that if you went too far off the planet, you
Christopher Columbus knew the world was round.
No, he didn't know.
Oh yeah, he didn't think it was flat. No, he didn't think it was flat.
No, I didn't say he didn't think it was flat. He didn't think it was round either. He thought it was. There was a different. Actually, he explains it in one of his books. Go ahead,
I'm
Chris.
of the opinion that Christopher Columbus, if he did in fact know the world was round, which I kind of think that he at least hypothesized it.
Yeah, he had
that he not only picked that up from sitting on the dock of a bay watching ships go over the horizon, but he also had the privilege of being around Venetian Moors who had already sailed here. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's where he got most of his information from and his knowledge from the Moors.
I have a secret that some of you don't know, that a book has been written in the university that Christopher Columbus was not Spanish descent or Italian descent, but was a Portuguese spy.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, and written from a university and published. So, I mean, it was put out there. So they did DNA testing. Until this day, the DNA testing has been locked up. So it hasn't been published.
So going back to what you were saying, both you guys were talking about, about your background. When we was talking earlier, Chris, we talked about the reason why you wrote this book was because people will ask you questions, and one of the things that I tabbed up is on page 7, and actually you say random person. Oh, so you're mixed, right? And let me ask you. So how did that make you feel? Because I'm mixed. My father was black, my mom is white.
Man, you and I are probably cousins, dude. Because I'm related to Osman I, the founder of the Ottoman Empire. So I guarantee you we're cousins. Maybe like a quarter Turkish, and we not be related. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious. Like I wasn't just born with a natural tan. I guess maybe I was. I don't know, but. Yeah. I get really dark in the summer. I had curly hair. Yeah.
You was white on the outside, but brown on the inside. What's that from? Blood in and blood out.
In high school, I was only 6 foot tall, and I could stand flat under a goalpost and two-hand dunk a basketball. That ain't because of my eyes.
You could hear it in his voice. He's black. So his deep voice, his baritone voice is black. His skin may not be black, but his baritone voice is black. So he's black.
I like how y'all.
I bet he can rap.
I like how y'all carry this conversation because it's important. This is another important thing. The word black seems to be looked at as it had to be African Americans or people who were former slaves or something like that. But when I did my research, because I have a black father and a white mother, I wanted to know the proper terms, the terminology, just like how you said in the preface of your book about Native Americans and what to call you guys, and what's the respectful type, and all this other stuff. Black literally just means, as far as skin tones, is light brown to dark brown. And now light brown to dark brown can be anything, but that's considered when we looking at skin tones. There's also black features like facial, eyes, hips, all kinds. Is that then you have what is black culture, right?
Right.
Not everybody who's into black culture is black, right? Because you have Asians, you have white people, you have shit. I want to say Inuits just to throw that out there if it's possible. You know what I mean? And but the term black seems to, when people hear that, in reality, to go to the basic foundational understanding of what's going back to the understanding of where the word black, derived from. And it meant mostly from Africa. People from Africa is what, black burnt face was how some Greek people would describe Africans in Ethiopia, or some would say sunburnt face, or charcoal, or bronze, or something like that.
Bro, just spit it out, redneck. Jesus Christ. Crying out loud. I know it's a bad word, but Jesus Christ. I mean, he knows what you're trying to get around to.
No, but it's serious to understand this, because people, when you hear that word, it doesn't register for everybody the same. And you can tell by the way they react.
And you talk about it being in some way cultural. And I think it's important to understand that even cultural identity is fluid and can mean a lot of different things to different people at different times. Yeah. What we call black today may not be black 50 years from now.
Yeah, or tomorrow. Yeah, exactly.
Do people take offense to that word? Redneck in North Carolina, they get mad at that.
I don't. My neck gets red when I'm outside too long.
It depends on how they say it, though.
I mean, I got a whole lot of European DNA in me.
If you say it in a certain way, then I guess people could take offense to it, and you get a black eye. So,
yeah, I guess that's what.
See that, and that's why I think it's important, because in your book you try to separate, the
I did want to mention, I just wanted to plug in just what he said earlier about the powwow in 2020, was in 2025. September 12th of 2025 was the 55th Coharie Tribe powwow. So I just wanted to mention that real quick.
And you got
those people that were interested in. Yeah, the one that's coming up, I don't know when that's going to be, but just wanted to plug that in real quick. So those people that want to go and visit the powwow.
You can go to the Coharie Tribe website. I mentioned it in the back of the book, and it'll have all the dates of various culture classes, meetings, the powwow, all that kind of stuff's out there.
They do have a Facebook website. Just type in Coharie Tribe, and you could. I'm just gonna hit the follow button myself, and pretty much follow in, and I think I'll go ahead and go to that powwow whenever it comes around.
In our first,
I go to the one over here. They have tribes here as well in Virginia.
Oh, where are you at?
I'm in Norfolk.
Oh, Norfolk. Okay.
So they do the powwow in Virginia Beach.
Which tribe is that? Is that the Nansemond tribe?
You know what, man? You're asking me like this might be the French. There's so many tribes on the East Coast. It's insane, man. It's like so many, but no, it's a combination. Actually, the powwow is a combination of all the indigenous tribes coming together, and they compete with each other.
Yeah, we had that here in Greensboro.
Yeah, right. So I saw all these different outfits and colors, and they all combined with each other. And I actually got a couple of numbers from people, and I communicated with them, and I felt like a connection between them. And
I'm a member of Guilford Native American Association out of Greensboro, and they do a powwow every year. And actually last year it was the week after the Coharie powwow, and it's every tribe.
You know what? The Coharie may have been up at this powwow in Virginia Beach.
I'm sure.
If I'm recalling, I believe I met someone from the Coharie Tribe up there because
You-
everybody had their tent.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Did you happen to run into a guy named Corey Brewington? Last name
mm,
Brewington sound
I'm
familiar?
terrible with names, but
He's a fantastic dancer. He's Coharie
is
Indian.
an older gentleman, right?
He's younger than me, actually.
He's
I'm
younger than
50.
you. All
Yeah.
right. I met a couple older gentlemen that were in their 50s that and maybe their 60s that were chiefs pretty much of their tribe. They
Yeah, our
were
chief.
amazing.
I talked with our chief at the Unity conference in Raleigh about, I guess, a month or two ago, and I would have never guessed this man at 91 or 92 years old. Man, he looks
Wow.
fantastic. I'm like, that's just crazy.
Wow.
I couldn't believe he's in his 90s.
That's fantastic, man. I would love to meet indigenous people in their and it doesn't matter what age they are because they impart a knowledge that is handed down from generation to generation, and it
Yeah,
doesn't matter what the story is because the story is so old and it's handed in through music, dance, and it's historical. We go to museums, but the people in these tribes are the museums, and people don't really understand that concept because in modern technology in modern America, we go to museums, but we don't really hold the same esteem to our
Mhm.
families as indigenous people hold their families to that accountability. We don't hold our families to that accountability, but the
and I'm a
indigenous
sucker.
people hold that accountability to passing along that history. And I find that so fascinating.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for going to museums. I love
Oh, me
museums. I love
too.
studying my history. But to your point, museums are static. And static is not a word I would use to describe a powwow. It's electric. Like it's alive, it's breathing.
Yes,
Like
yes.
that's how to take in indigenous history is go to a powwow for real, straight up.
Mhm.
And everyone's
Yes.
welcome at a powwow. It don't matter what country you're from, what your background is. You don't have to be native. Just
Mhm.
go. Just go
Mhm.
and be respectful and enjoy
Everybody's
yourself.
welcome. Yeah, I've been to one. Everybody's welcome to go. It's not like it's a secret society of some kind.
No,
It is everybody is welcome to go. It's
it's not
incredible.
Bohemian Grove.
Oh my God!
No,
Ooh,
so
That's funny.
we're going down the rabbit hole, aren't we?
And you know what's so funny, and that always leads to some representation or worshiping gods. And I actually have a tab that's open right now. Um, that it's on page 15 where you call it's the Ehopwe, Ehopwe.
right.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's a Siouan word. If I remember correctly, I'm going to look at page 15 so I don't get this wrong. I
Yeah,
believe that is an old Catawban word,
yeah.
which, if you look at language family tree, the breakout of Native American families, linguistic families on the East Coast, you have the Siouan Catawban family tree.
Mm.
And so Catawban is one of the root languages of all the Sioux people, including the Nakota out west, all the Plains Indians. Their language came from here on the East Coast. We were first. And
Mm.
then different groups, the Dahegahans spread from the Ohio River headwaters.
Mm.
The Lakota, Nakota, they all went across the Mississippi and kept going out into the plains. But it all came from here, like in North Carolina here.
So, so I'm interested in God. So I'm going to ask you. Tell me about Ehopwe.
In as far as I know it really goes back to the principle of Wankantonka, which means the Great Spirit. So while they could take on human characteristics, it was more important than a human. So it's kind of like to say that God has arms, God has legs, God walked across the face of the earth would be to diminish God because God's the all powerful creator.
Mm.
So usually Native American tribes, and especially on the East Coast that I'm more familiar with, it's more about the creator and the Great Spirit than it is about God or
Mhm.
the Lord or anything like
They
that.
they
You would think of in
does the
European
Christian
terms.
does the Christian religion look down upon the indigenous people because of that belief
No.
in the society,
I
or do
mean,
they respect them?
I guess I'm in a unique position to be both native professing native, card carrying native, and Christian. So maybe I'm the right person to answer the question, but the Christianity I follow and the Jesus Christ I follow doesn't want us to look down or hate on anyone, even those who are diametrically opposed to us, who want to persecute us and kill us. We are still supposed to love them because they are a soul created in the image of God, just the way I was. That's how I would answer that question.
I have a question. So, okay, because you talk about Christianity, and so what did the Coharie tribe believe in before Christianity? Like, what was their God before that? And then the next question is to follow up with that, and this would probably be a long description for you, is the fact that do the Coharie tribe believe in multiple gods coming to better people on planet Earth?
That I probably cannot answer in the way that it needs to be answered. I know from my family both here in the Triad and my family who grew up down in Harnett County before relocating here, they've always identified as Christian. And even on the tribal website, you'll hear them talk about Shiloh Church, Burnt Swamp Church, New Bethel Church. Like the communities in the very beginning, they centered all of their tribal functions around the 4 churches. That's where all of our ancestors are buried. And so, and you got to understand, we were the first Native Americans to come in contact in a lot of ways with Christianity, the brand of Christianity that came from the Anglican Church from Great Britain. You know, there was Catholics obviously in New Spain and La Florida, but not here. So you can go back and look in, I believe, is it this book or is it this book? James Mooney's book, The Siouan Tribes of
You showed
the
me
East.
that before, yeah.
He talks a little bit about religion, and I have another book which I don't have in here right now. It's
I love how you do that, bro. You got books everywhere. That's why I respect you so much, bro, because you know, one thing that I like is I like looking at people's background and looking at seeing their books, and they're just pulling out books and saying, it's either this book, this book, this book. That shit, I love that because for one, you're not just saying, hey, a book title and an author. You're saying, hey, I got this information from here. So if you don't believe me, read this book and let's have a discussion afterwards.
I got nothing but ebooks.
You know what I'm saying? So, but no matter what, because I don't have my Kindle in here.
I got way too many ebooks. I you know, ever since I moved, I said I cannot drag around a bunch of books. You know, it's just way too heavy for me. I had to leave my books. I had to donate them behind. I had a lot of books before, but
the books are good. I have I got a Kindle because I'm running out of room to put books in my house. I mean, I have books here in my study room. I have books in my living room. I got to buy some more bookshelves, bigger bookshelves, because that one's starting to get overflowed. I have my kids have books. I mean, we have books everywhere. And this is what I wanted to bring up importantly. Chris is an author. Okay, this dude is amazing because of 2 reasons. One, he was passionate about to find out who he was. Okay, and then he took that passion and he wrote a book. And he has one of the only books out there that talks specifically about the Coharie tribe, which means that if anybody wants to know about the Coharie tribe, you know, he has his book on Amazon, and there's another place that you have your book on that I can't remember.
Book Maybe.
Yeah, Book Maybe. And, you know, I have a lot of stuff tabbed up in here. I mean, I showed you already the tabs, and this is for all the books. I do this with every book that I have. I take these little tabs and I put them on there of things that's interesting to me.
If you do not have stock market stocks on tabs, I'm gonna yell at you. I'm gonna just blow my. I mean, I just don't understand. You are like the only person I've seen that has like loads of tabs on books. You should be making millions of dollars on the stock market with tabs.
Hey, I just bought some brand new ones just
I saw that. Even more?
Yeah,
bro. Amazon must love you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I bought some more today.
Yeah, it's probably what Amazon advertise. Yeah, they probably advertise like crazy on you. Oh, we got newer tabs, even different colors. We got
So
fuchsias.
this is what's really
Green.
interesting, because not only that you talk about, and I think this is where Graham Hancock should come and talk to you specifically. If anybody ever wants to talk about the Coharie Tribe, they don't need to go to anybody but you, at least the author who wrote this book. I mean, there's of course people that you respect that you will put off to who people should to talk to, but me personally, you're the only person I know that say that's about the Coharie Tribe. And
Appreciate
you
that.
actually in your book and you say, I realize much like the Graham Hancocks of the world, I run the risk of being labeled a science denier, white supremacist, or tinfoil hat wearer for dare allowing my readers to make sense of all available data and research, but so be it. In a subsequent chapter, I will use this timeline as a framework to discuss my own personal DNA analysis. First things first, let's take a walk back in time some 26,000 years ago. Now, that was important for you to put in there for what reason and one reason only?
Well, I basically tiptoed into the fray of cultural isolationists versus cultural diffusionists. And I personally am a cultural diffusionist. I'll just go ahead and say that up front.
Explain what those are.
So, cultural isolationists believe that in order for the wheel to come over here, it had to be brought by someone else. And the wheel was an invention that was in isolation to a group of people somewhere on the planet. And to a cultural isolationist, the oceans are not highways. The oceans are brick walls that you can't get past. And there was no way there was contact between continents. Cultural diffusionists say no, ideas and inventions and language, it flowed freely over the entire earth. Ice didn't get in the way, water didn't get in the way, mountains didn't get in the way. It just happened. We don't know how it happened, but it happened. And I'm in that camp. I don't believe that my ancestors could only walk across ice from the west, being Bering Strait, Beringia. I believe they could also walk across ice from the east. Why not? And until someone shows me otherwise, I'm going to continue to believe that.
But you do believe in both, though, right?
Yeah, I believe. Okay. And the Kelp Highway, there's more and more evidence for the Kelp Highway. You know, Monteverde in Chile points to that. The rock art in Brazil points to that. There's so many sites. It's just, to me, it's closed-minded to think that Clovis first is the only way.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, bro. And this led me to, God, man, bro, man, you're the way these conversations flow. It's almost like you already know what sticky tabs I already have that I want to talk about. Seriously, you and Fat Jesus have literally been going on about these tabs because y'all both been controversial about what you guys said, but you've talked about that controversy, and that was part of your controversy when you mentioned the word white supremacist. Some people would stop reading your book right there because they don't like that word, because they feel like, oh, now here we go, he's going to start being woke.
I'm going to hang up now.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm serious. You and that's something that you have to honestly understand about your own writing, is that you should be able to know when some people might take your offense, and that's why you explained it the way you explained it. And then I felt that because of the simple fact that you give a timeline that starts at 24,000 BC, and it's a timeline of different things of history, which is amazing because you're trying to use puzzle pieces to make sense of everything. Yep. You're not just trying to say, hey, the Coharie tribe has always been here. I want to give you a timeline how it came to be.
And like for instance, the Page Ladson archaeological site in Florida, I put that in the timeline. Not to say, oh, the Coharie were here or nothing like that, but it's all available data points. Put it in there. Let the readers determine for themselves. Don't omit it. Go to hit Clovis first. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Why lead your reader down a rabbit hole when you can already tell them, hey, look, this is the rabbit hole and here's a flashlight. You ain't even got to worry about what you're looking for. I'm going to tell you what you might be interest of you. Right. And it's important that I always say this, just because people read the same book doesn't mean everything in the book is of interest in them. Everybody's going to have different things. That's why I put tabs on there, because it's stuff that's interesting to me in particular, personally. And I have a channel or a playlist on my YouTube channel where what I've learned from reading this book, that I would take what I've learned previously from different places that I've learned from, and what I know from reading that book, and I'll have like a little dialogue with myself about it. And it's interesting because your book, you talk about 6,000 BC, Africans became adept at water navigation in their boats. And it's interesting you say that because I've always said this, and then I have to use this map behind me. So I'm about to get real technical real quick. Hold on. I want to make sure that, because this was always interesting to me. I turn this light down so it doesn't glare too much in the background. It's still glaring. All right, so let's do it this way. All right.
Also, before we go on, I want you to go ahead and post the link to your book on Amazon so that people can purchase. It's on the right side on the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and put your link in there where people can buy your book, please.
Right.
Yeah.
And also Rebirth of the Word. Also, when you get a chance at the end of the stream, post your link as well. People can purchase your book. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah, Chris, whenever you're ready, go ahead and put your link in there.
All right.
So the oldest Homo sapien bones. First, let me ask you this before I even say this. Do you think everybody came from Africa? Yes or no?
As of right now, yes.
See, you had to decide just like I had to do too, because that's scientifically what people say, right? Right.
I mean, I was a process engineer before I retired, and like any process engineer, any master black belt will tell you, all it takes is one more data point, one more observation, and it'll throw all your knowledge, your hypotheses, throw it right out the window. It takes one more. So all we need is one more archaeological site that turns Clovis first on its head. Turns out of Africa on its head.
Exactly.
As of right now, yes, we came out of Africa. Both the mitochondrial DNA tract comes out of Africa, and the Y DNA tract comes out of Africa. This is what we know now.
I'm glad you said that. So this is where it's going to get real technical. And
here we go. We're going to be schooled.
So the oldest Homo sapien bones found on planet Earth, Homo sapien bones, meaning Homo sapiens, us, even though it's not the same exact ones. The oldest Homo sapien bones found on this planet was found in Morocco, Africa.
Yep.
That's right here. Okay. That's where they say oldest Homo sapien bones. Okay. They don't say oldest DNA. The oldest DNA, mitochondrial DNA that Chris was talking about, is usually about right here. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
So you got the oldest mitochondrial DNA here, then you got the oldest Homo sapien bones here. Now, my question is, why isn't the oldest Homo sapien bones and mitochondrial DNA in the same location? That's how we would determine where humans first started from. Now, technically, by scientific data, we have two different places where humans started from: the Homo sapiens and the mitochondrial.
And that was the mitochondrial DNA was from the mummy they found that they called the early Eve, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. They're always
why not in between?
They always call it Eve. They always call it, even the oldest one that's in Mexico, or in Mexico, I believe it is Eve. But not
why not in between?
I don't know. I'm not going to get into that, but I can tell you right now, when it comes
but seriously, in military standards, when a person walks from one point to the other and ends up at a certain destination, when they go from, let's say for instance, if one is in one coast and one is in the other coast, then they're not going to be stagnant. Like they're going to stay there. They just not ended up, but doesn't mean they were born and raised in that one area. They're going to like move around, right? So they're going to move to the location. So what if both of them actually came from one place, and that one place would be central area? Where are they going to find that one central area?
That's why I'm about to tell you where it's interesting for.
Man, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to.
I know, but this is my point though for the Native Americans. When we talk about the out of Africa, inner Africa, or whatever the idea of humans, when you look at Morocco, Africa, and you do that line straight over, you're in the close area.
Come on, man! They didn't walk across the ocean.
No, I'm not saying walking. I'm talking about that. Yeah, they. If you look at, If the oldest Homo sapien bones started right here, why couldn't have the oldest Homo sapien bones on the other side of the world started at that place, the
I
same
mean, it
location at the
depends.
same time?
If the continents
Because
were closer together, yeah.
no, because they, like pay attention to what I said earlier. Homo sapiens. Now the Homo sapiens is here. The mitochondrial is here. These are two different places and two
Well,
different.
mitochondrial Eve down around present day Kenya,
Mm,
that was Homo sapien DNA, right? It wasn't Denisovan or Neanderthal.
they say is Homo sapien.
How
But
long
that's
ago?
what that's where the confusion for me comes into is when they say the oldest Homo sapien bones found were in Morocco, Africa.
How long
That
ago?
means that that's older. It has to be older than this area then.
But
Yeah,
how
but
long
they're
ago?
both probably Homo sapien, though. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
And that's where clarification comes into when people consider humans. But this is where I said it gets technical. If Morocco's right here, why couldn't people start it in that same line at the same time? What is why what is the difference? Like, and what I mean by that is, um, it could have been a group of people that was already here, and then it could have been a group of people already here because scientifically they say everybody comes from here, literally
Well,
right
the
here in this.
clearest, I think, explanation would be that lines of latitude and ocean currents are not the same.
Mm.
So ocean currents don't follow a line of longitude or a line of latitude. Ocean currents meander and wave, and it changes with the salt content, the heat content, all that kind of stuff can change an ocean current. We know from explorations like Columbus, for instance, he didn't just leave straight from Spain and start sailing. He stopped in the Canary Islands and he sailed from the Canary Islands to go west. And I'm telling you, man, he knew this from the Moors. They knew the ocean currents from the Canary Islands would kick you further south to the islands. Yes, in the Caribbean, not straight across or not down to Brazil, but that current would travel naturally toward Hispaniola and Cuba and Jamaica. But on the return trip, you had to go north in order to go east without friction, so to say. But current going back is in a circle, and it goes exactly where you're at right now to get back to Europe. That's why I was.
You go to Canary Islands too, which is so funny that you say that because my wife is Puerto Rican, and her history goes back to the Canary Islands. And it's so interesting to me that if you look at Africa and Spain, this area right here by itself, that little spot right there, you can literally see each side of the land.
Straight
on
into
on yeah on a clear day. But let me ask you, because a lot of people say they believe that just because one Native American tribe claims African heritage means that they all do, and that's not true, right?
Yeah.
That's not true at all. Me personally, from my research, I'm just like you. Scientifically, right now, they say that everybody comes from Africa. Me personally, just knowing the difference between mitochondrial DNA and then the oldest Homo sapien bones and all this other stuff, that all that stuff throws me off because one thing that I pay attention to are the words that are being said. When I found out the oldest Homo sapien bones were found in Morocco, Africa, I was like, okay, then that means that if they were the oldest Homo sapien bones were found in Morocco, Africa, that means that somebody either traveled there and died, or they grew up and died there. But that's an old location for Homo sapiens. And this can be said about the same thing about the mummy that they found in Central Africa, right? So my idea is that I don't personally think that everybody came from Africa. I think the group's pot of creation started everywhere. It's like planting seeds. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to plant all your good seeds in one location. You're going to spread them seeds out. And hopefully when those seeds grow, that grass will also, or whatever it is, will expand that growth, right? And fill in what the dead seeds or broken seeds couldn't. So when it comes to creating humans, in the eye of the Hopi, the guy creator of that, it would only make sense to plant seeds everywhere around the world, basically. and hopefully the climate and where those seeds were planted and that situation and everything brought all the humans together. We're not the same Homo sapiens we were 300,000, 200,000, or 75,000 years ago, right? Let alone 20,000 years ago. We've changed ourselves, and they're seeing changes in us right now. From when I was a little kid, they're saying that our brains are getting smaller now, because of the technology that we use. It supplements the need for a bigger brain, I guess, or the type of brain that we have. So
the use of
is Google making us dumber?
Say what?
The use of screens will make our eyes eventually get bigger. Our necks will tend to bend forward more because we're always like this on a phone. We're seeing those physiological changes even right now in young kids because it's just so a part of them. Like when I was growing up as a kid, we didn't have that stuff. There were no screens. There were no phones that were computers. But now kids are getting this as early as 2 years old, and it's part of their life. It's ubiquitous everywhere, in school, at home. Whatever, it's everywhere.
I want, and this is a good question. See, I'm telling you, I love how the conversation is flowing. With the way technology is coming today, the Native Americans of the past, indigenous people of the past, they in some ways tried to stay away from technology at one time, right? Almost like the Amish people, they're still fighting that good fight of staying away from technology as much as possible, right? But they do have one day out the year where they can act up and do whatever the hell they want to do. So that 1 year makes up for all those many years that they have the opportunity to leave if they want to. So that's not like they're being forced, right? But with the Native Americans, indigenous people, they try to avoid it. How do you adapt what is being basically pushed upon Native Americans of today? I mean, just the history of Native Americans, of everything being pushed on you guys to adapt and change and be this way. How do you adapt and take that with your head held high?
I immediately think of a buzzword that's come into play over the last decade for sure, if not maybe a little longer: intersectionality. I think there's some intersectionality there between Native Americans and what has been seen traditionally as a rejection of modernity and the way our technology is taking us now, vis-a-vis AI, AGI, robotics. The AI thing is wild, dude. I saw a report from, I think it was Vice News, that some AI data centers will use 1 million gallons of water in a week.
Okay.
1 million gallons of water in a week. That's crazy, man.
That is crazy.
And Native Americans have always been at the forefront of fighting about water and air and land and being good stewards of all three. And just imagine, like, what's the city of Wilmington, North Carolina going to do if all of a sudden some AI group comes in? I'm not naming any companies, but they decide we're going to use the Cape Fear River, which is your drinking water, by the way, to go to this data farm so we can make cutesy little videos out of AI. I mean, that's real world problems, man.
What if they are using it already and you don't know about it?
Oh, I mean, they are. There's AI data farms all over the place, and they're going to be more, a lot more, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I immediately think of, when I get into conversations about rejecting modernity, I think of a holy man from the Lenape tribe.
But let me add some information to what you were talking about. I think there's a medium, and people need to stop freaking out, because I think with everything, it's the Salem witch trials all over again. And it always, with some new technology, always coming around. Let's burn the witch, let's burn AI, let's burn these data farms. Everybody's always has this fear. And I'm going to be honest with you, we need the data farms, and they're not going to get rid of the data farms. But even if they move the data farms, and I'm going to give you the solution to the water problem, the solution to the water farm, and you're going to hear me and you're going to laugh. There's a car wash. You know what car washes do? They recycle their water. They don't keep bringing in water. They take in water and then they extinguish their water into one of these big, massive gallon thing, and then they take that water and then they recycle that water, clean it, purify it, and then they reuse the water again, and then it goes right through again. Now the ones are efficient, of course, because the one I use, they're efficient. They recycle the water, and then
I didn't
it's
know
brand
that.
new. That's why I go early in the morning because the water smells good. But if you go late in the day, in the night, you have your window open, you smell it, and you're like, oh man, that water is not recycled. It's like it's oldly recycled, so it smells nasty. But if you go early in the morning, it smells kind of nice because they recycle it and it smells good through the recycler and all that stuff. But those are the efficient ones. That's why they stay around. They stick around and they can handle they're efficient enough where they make money, and they also have solar panels up top too. So that's a really efficient car wash. The newer ones that charge you monthly are really good.
I thought you were going to say nuclear power.
Oh
Honestly,
yeah, right. The future car washes are nuclear power.
because
Yeah.
I have seen where was it the Alphabet company, Google?
Yeah,
They want
Google's
to
the
open up
alphabet.
an AI data farm and have their own nuclear power plant. They'll be like the first
Yeah,
corporation to have a nuclear power plant, not a country. I
that's
mean, that's
crazy.
probably the way.
How did they pull that off?
I mean, it probably is the way of the future, honestly. I
I
mean,
think it is. It is. It absolutely is the way of the future.
They could only pull that off here in the United
Let,
States
let's
because they can't go to another country and do that shit.
You know,
yeah,
it's so interesting y'all talking about that because you got to look at it like how metallurgy was first introduced to humans. Okay, metallurgy. We used to be hunters gatherers. Metallurgy usually was, in a sense, if you look at it, was a source to help sustain. But it's also can be used to destroy life too by weapons, right? So as good as agriculture and metallurgy is for humans, it also can be the worst thing for humans. Same thing with nuclear energy. We get to the point where nuclear energy can be used at a rate that's very cheap and very easy to maintain
clean.
and clean. It will get to the point where it'd be easy as just having a small nuclear box in your house on the side now, and you just have to maintain that, right? And it's all about our technology. And this is where I wanted to ask you, Chris, because this is important. You talk a little bit about your in this book, and we was talking about
Imagine being
technology.
the engineer that can make the best armor and the best weapons. The
Yeah, and
king
that's
would
that.
just keep you hidden
This
from
is this
everybody else,
and
locked up.
this actually leads to my question. When it comes to Native Americans, with everything that happened, especially I'm speaking just on the Coharie Tribe or Cherokee Tribe that you're aware of, um, why do you think it was so easy for the Europeans to take over? Because in the book you actually specifically say you try to stay away from the word colonizer because of the way that the word hits people
Yeah.
emotionally. You try to use the correct term for the manner that it was used in, right? So how can you answer that? How does that how does that happen in
No,
your
I can answer that, but go ahead.
eyes?
So the question was, how were the tribes overtaken so easily?
Yeah.
I mean, I like Jared Diamond's book, Guns, Germs, Steel. I mean, it's kind of a simple thesis, but if you really think about it, you just brought up metallurgy. That was such a huge leap forward in weapons and warfare. Germs, which the Europeans didn't understand at all, really. Let's be honest. The Moors came to Europe and they're like, why doesn't anyone take a bath?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really understand germ warfare, but they were actively spreading it everywhere they went.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other one? Guns,
Mm-hmm.
obviously another warfare implementation. And I write about it in the book. It's in the timeline. I
Yeah.
can't remember
Yeah.
where.
That's why.
There is an actual letter that has been recovered where the colonial powers sent letters back to the king in England and said, "Hey, here's the philosophy we've been using. We will take a big tribe that is central and powerful and has influence, and we will pit them against the other tribes." So that was the modus operandi going forward for all the tribes, not just the Eastern Woodland tribes, but across the country. They would pit tribes against each other. It's no different than what happened
In Europe.
colonialism in
Ireland,
Africa and Asia. They'll take
Ireland.
a small ethnic minority and pit them against everybody else. They'll put the small ethnic minority in charge, and everybody else will get jealous and envious, and they'll start killing each other. And then next thing you know, oh, the land's ours. Oh, cool. Same thing happened here. I mean, let's be honest. I'm not trying to, I ain't trying to put anybody down, make anybody feel bad, but it's just the truth. I mean, if some of my, I'm sure some of my British ancestors did terrible things to my native ancestors.
Who wears kilts? Who wears kilts?
That would be the Scots.
The Scots, the Irish.
Yes.
It was mental warfare. The English, the British, they knew how to. I mean, come on, man. If you look on a map, British is a tiny little freaking island. How could they conquer these massive armies off of their little tiny little island? One, because they were an island away from everything. That's one. Who can get to them, right? They were fortified on that island. Two, they were able to enact the mental warfare on these people. They were so dumb. They didn't have the education that they had. I that's what I think. They were really, really doing it, man. I mean, it was crazy. I was reading upon a lot of their history. It was just crazy what they did to a lot of the Irish and the Scots in that time period, and changing them and taking their women and changing them into British, having their children and stuff like that is crazy.
What's wild to me is how the Native Americans that were on Newfoundland, what today is called Newfoundland, how they defeated the Vikings. I don't know if it's just called the Vikings or Scandinavians, I should say, during the Viking Age. They went to Lansall Meadows and Vinland, and the Mi'kmaq Indians and Indians who were related to the Mi'kmaq beat them back and basically got rid of them. But again, they didn't have the technology that the Scandinavians had, whether it was Danes or even folks from Iceland. They brought the technology from Denmark and Norway to Iceland and then to Greenland. And I'm pretty sure they showed up on the shores of Newfoundland with metal swords and body armor. But somehow the Mi'kmaq and those related Algonquian tribes, the Vikings called them Skraelings, which just means to screech, because they didn't understand their language, and to them it sounded like screaming. They beat them back, and it's just weird because you think about the Viking Age, and man, they were holy terrors across Europe. They beat everybody into submission.
From what I understand, that they had a good winter, and they were able to harvest and hold all their wheat and all that stuff, and they were healthier than the Danes were.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Yeah, so they were able to defeat them because they were weaker in as far as having a food shortage and all that stuff, and that was their chance to go ahead and take them down.
Yeah, there's a pretty good.
From what I've heard, from history, that they were unlucky. A lot of luck factor has to go into warfare.
Well, the BBC did a documentary. It's on YouTube. I watched a little bit of it the other day, and they talk about how the downfall of the Viking Age was their 1,000% reliance on husbandry. They would not adapt to new environments. They would try to bring the husbandry from Denmark and Norway to Iceland. Well, Iceland ain't the same as Denmark, not even close. It definitely ain't the same as Greenland, not even close. So to your point, they got weaker and weaker the further they went. By the time they got to Newfoundland, they were just like a figment of what they used to be.
I wonder they were just killing everybody, because they were saying, man, this is crazy that they're doing what they're doing. So they were just killing these families. That's why we heard those horror stories, because the mix that they were creating.
What's really cool is you look at modern geneticists, the science behind genetics and DNA research. We know for a fact that some Vikings did go back to Iceland, and this shows up in my DNA. I have cousins right now in Iceland. I'm like, how did I get cousins in Iceland? They took native women back and had babies with them. So 5/6 of the country in Iceland are all third and fourth cousins. They're all related to each other. But there's that 1/5, 1/6 of the population that has this wild X2A, X2B haplogroup in their genes, and it's because they brought a native woman back, and they had offspring. I mean, that's just what happens when people get together.
Yeah. And that's actually that's actually what led us here to this conversation was my wanting to know a little bit of what you said and promote your book, because I absolutely feel like more people, and you already got enough people, or not enough, you already got people interested in this book. Your book is amazing. You have great information.
You have a lot of knowledge.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you have a lot of knowledge. I respect the fact that your passion took you down this journey. It wasn't for you. It wasn't your need to prove something one way to right or wrong. It was to prove who you were, to understand who you was as an individual. We all want to know who we are. That's why I said, if you pick up my book, I literally have, my DNA analysis from 23andMe in there about what I have. And of course, it gets updated and the information changes a little bit with more new information. But for the sole idea is to show that, hey, this passion of this book was written because the love that I have within myself, which you can tell that you have love within yourself and your tribe. Your background as far as your grandparents, your father, your mother, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, everybody in the tribe from all. I mean, I don't know if you guys call each other brothers and sisters or what you guys would call each other, but for you get the idea that you guys have a community that you can get you brought to the table. And I can tell you right now, the first writing system in this world came from the Sumerians, from what most people understand. That started in 3200 BC. You wrote this book in what, 2025, 2024?
Yeah, 2025.
2025. In 2025 AD, Chris Maynard wrote the book, The History of the Coharie Tribe. The first time, any time in the U.S. history was written about this tribe was by this man himself. And from this time forward, from 2025 to 2026 until the future, your book will always be recognized as the first to be written about your tribe. So it's an honor to absolutely have you here.
Yeah, you're the father.
Yeah, you're the father.
You're the big daddy.
So. One of the things that changed from the time I wrote the book to
every speaking engagement they're gonna be calling you.
One of the big things that changed from when I wrote the book in 2025, actually started at the end of 2024 to now, is that I had my 50th birthday in December of 2025. And I think I put it in either the preface or the introduction. I talk about the fact that there's a Siouan tradition among the Siouan tribes, of which the Coharie is the Eastern Siouan tribe, that if you stand up to speak before your elders, then you are to apologize first, then speak. I wasn't 50 at the time that I wrote the book, so I apologized to my elders. And my apology was focused around the fact that I had not sat down and put pen to paper before they all left, before they left this world. And I think that's important. I wish that tradition would hold across all people groups, because we got to respect our elders, man. We got to honor our ancestors. Now I'm 50. 50 is the magic number. Now I'm considered an elder. They didn't update the number as life expectancies got longer. So now I have the right to speak at any time, pretty much.
That's a great way to end it. Perfectly said. This was a wonderful discussion. I remember that in the book when you said that to ask for forgiveness first. And that's actually what you did before you even started typing your first words for this book, which I caught that when you said that. So it's like I said, it's an honor to have you here. Fat Jesus joined us. He's going to start.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, he really asked. He asked a lot of questions last night about you because he watched the show of the first show.
Yeah, I asked if you take a shower in the morning, or you brush your teeth, do you wear shoes, or you just barefoot all the time.
Walk daily. Save a lot of money and pain in the future.
And and one of the things that I like to do is I like to connect people that's interested in things, because you never know who's going to be interested in your work. And I feel like, I'm pretty sure Chris can say this also, if just one person read your book, that's all that mattered to you, right? So
oh yeah, man.
So you, both me and Fat Jesus really do appreciate you being
You didn't
here.
put your link in. Oh yeah, you put it in there. You put it in the
Yeah.
private chat. You didn't put it in.
Yeah, just a FYI, I'm in conversation with Amazon right now. My book was available on Amazon for Kindle for the longest time. Now, for some reason, they're only showing the paperback. So I also put the link directly to the publisher. So if you still want to buy an ebook for your Kindle or your Nook or your iPhone, you can buy it from the publisher and it'll still load onto your Kindle. I don't know what's going on with Amazon. 2 of my 5 books, the Kindle version just dropped off mysteriously. I'm trying to get it added back on.
Yeah, I'm glad you said
Yeah,
that.
I
'Cause
did too. Man, all those links.
Yeah.
Everybody's bombarded by links.
Well, I promote his work a lot. You know, and I've been following Chris for a while. He's been at conferences and places like that, events, since the last time I spoke to him. So like I said, it's been an honor. I'm gonna end the stream. I appreciate you for being here, Chris. Fat Jesus, hey, don't go nowhere. We're gonna have a sidebar for a second until like I always say this every single time. Until next time, knowledge is power.
Got a little hype now, can I let it die down? I remember days in the trench. Time to go hard in, time to go all in, time to get my all to this shit. Panamera maxed out, first class flights out Atlantic to Pacific, yeah, it's lit.
Man, that was awesome.